Okay, my friends, prepare yourself. This is Nick on the Rocks. This is PBS. We pay for this. And he's teaching the kids about rocks and how the basalt columns form. And he's talking about all kinds of different rock formations. And I say he's not correct. I expect I should be able to engage with him. We're paying for him to teach the kids, and I say that it's not correct. Okay, my friends, this is Nick on the Rocks, and he's from PBS, and he's with Central Washington University. And I say he's not correct about his claims about how basalt columns form, and virtually everything, because he doesn't understand geology is biology. I'm explaining it in extreme detail. And I expect to be able to have a conversation with Nick, some kind of a discussion. Could I have any validity? Because I can tell you I do. I have validity 100%. All right, my friends, I'm going to tell you right now, physics is nonsense. History is total nonsense. Geology is ridiculous. The fact is light will not slow down in the vast soup of space is another ridiculous statement. Light slows down, light speeds up, we can accelerate light. We have done all these things. And they say, don't talk to Roger, don't let him talk. This is light accelerating. This is light actually separating the muon from the electron showers. This is muon and electron neutrinos. This is what they are trying to do at CERN. They can't do it because they're starting with huge particles. Huge things like this. We started with light, which is like this. We're so far ahead of them, it's unbelievable. And of course, they tout how important they are and they need more funding and we'll figure this out in another 1,000 years. It's just nothing but, I can't see anything but scams anymore. And I've been fighting with Fermilab for over 10 years about this. This was over 10 years ago. I sent them this. I said, we found your particles in light. Get away. Don't ever come back here. And that's how it's been with every bit of academia. No matter what you show them, does not matter. Truth, you might as well forget it. Okay, this is academia teaching the kids. It says the kids should see this. Very nicely done, you know. They got a lot of money to spend on this. Now he's out there, this guy, geologist Nick Zentner, host of Nick on the Rocks. And that is hosted by PBS. So we're paying for this, the public. He's walking across these basalt columns in Othello, Washington, marveling at their consistent width. And you see these little blocks, block, and you see their consistent width and that they're in this geometric pattern. It says, how do these geometric columns form with pentagons, hexagons, other polygonal shapes? Zentner explains in the Cascade PBS video above. He's going to explain just how they're done. He says the rock columns around the world only form in volcanic rock layers. The lava was liquid and hot as it flowed away from an erupting volcano like spilled syrup flowing over the breakfast table. If you start cooling hot lava, it will shrink and crack as it cools, just like drying mud. The cracks progress inward from the chilled outside skin to the hot, gooey inside. Millions of years after the lava cools, the chaotic mess of fractures above the columns erodes away, revealing the beautifully formed column tops underneath. That's his explanation. All right, now he's teaching the kids. And we're paying for him to teach the kids. And this is, so I would think that I would have some discussion with Nick. If I've tried and there's no response whatsoever, and this is just accepted now that they can tell the kids anything they want, no matter how wrong it is. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter as long as you're in academia, you got that PhD on your name. Tell them anything you want. Now I'm going to tell you right now, this is congressional appropriation $535 million for the PBS, Corporation for Public Broadcasting. This is for 2025. Trump wants to end it. Well, I'll tell you what, I like to see public discussion, a forum for discussing, for education, public broadcasting, not a one-sided approach to anything. And that's what we've got now. It's in politics, it's in religion, it's in every teaching. No, it doesn't matter. You have to say what you're told to say, or you're not allowed to say it. And this is $535 million to indoctrinate our kids into something. Some of it just is totally not true. Pretty much most of it. You know, there are things here that have a good, valid backing to them. But when they talk about history and all of that stuff, it's just nonsense. The geology, and they say the kids should see this. Teach your kids this. And it's not true. It's just not true. And don't forget, we're spending millions and millions, $535 million, to teach the kids to see what they want them to see. And what they want them to see is only things they want them to see is what they want them to see. And they're going to make silly explanations for these things and tell the kids, we're the heroes, we're the smart ones, I'm Nick the geologist, and you're going to have to listen to what I say, and we're going to pay to indoctrinate you. We're paying to indoctrinate them. And then he goes on about total nonsense about this, absolute total nonsense, when I can show exactly what it is and in extreme detail. And when I say extreme detail, he's talking about these things right here. These are tendons. These are tendon fibrils. And I am going to show you the anatomical details. He can't explain any of this stuff. You know, the gooey, sugary goo turned into the tendons. No. These are the blocky little tendons, and they come in blocks. You say, oh no, Roger, why would they come in blocks? Well, because that's what tendons do. And here's what they look like in their blockiness. All right, let's come in close on this so you do not miss any of the details. What details, Roger? Well, that's tendon. You see those little tiny blocks? You see those little fibrils? Those are hex. Sometimes they're round, sometimes they're square, and sometimes they're hex. They come in all those different configurations, which I will show you uno momento. These different colors are the collagen fibers. Well, tendon is a collagen fiber. But the different colors means they're different chemical compositions, which gives them a lot of strength, tensile strength. Some of them are floppy, some of them whatever. But it depends on where it is in the body. If it has to get a little bit of stretch, well, they put a little stretchy stuff in. If it's just tight, no stretch at all, they put the real tough stuff in. And this is what tendons are made out of, those little blocks and those little round filaments, or the ones I'll show you right now. There are so many fibers in these tendons, it's unbelievable. The creatures were so large, again, it's not the average mind that can handle this. It's just that these people that are too trained, too highly educated, they literally cannot handle truth. So on PBS, the Nickster is out there on these things saying, oh, this is gooey stuff and this happened and yada, 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 yada. Well, no. These are the shapes. The rope tendon comes down like this, then it breaks off into a square block, and then inside that square block there's a bazillion little round ones, and inside these round ones there's a bazillion little hex. And inside those there's some kind of, all kinds of little globby things coming down until they come down into the fibers, which are these. You see these? These are big patterns with all the little patterns inside. Well, what is that? It's this big pattern with all these little patterns inside. We're looking at this right here is right there. You see? And then they'd come down to some more, a little smaller and smaller. And this is on the side of the ocean. It's just worn off flat. Now, but they're blocks. They are blocks. And you can see them where Nick was out there looking at these, marveling at the shapes of these pentagons, saying, geologist Nick Zentner, host of Nick on the Rocks, walks across these basalt columns, marveling at their consistent width. Well, I would like to marvel with him, and we can discuss this, because he has not even begun to marvel. If that makes him marvel, well, I guess I'm marveling for him. These are tendons. These are the little tendon blocks. This was the creature's body and a tendon that went from somewhere to somewhere else to attract to something. And it broke right off here. And they break off flat as a pancake. Like Devil's Tower is also the same thing. It's tendon. It's a little bit different tendon. It's not, well, it's actually not too much different. The Achilles tendon does not seem to have the blockiness that the other ones do. Block. I can't find it. Maybe some here and there, but when they break in the wrinkle zone, they snap and they go boing, and you can see some little blockiness to them. It might just be that these are so much under tension. You know, I got to look at this closer because you can see the blocks. And it is a tendon. Of that there is no question whatsoever. That is an Achilles tendon from a foot. And I will gladly discuss this with Nick. And these are abrupt transitions when they break and you get that wrinkle zone. This is Devil's Post Pile or something like that. They're all over. Every time they break, you get one of these abrupt transition and you get the wrinkle zone. It's just like here. Where is it here? You see it? That's the wrinkle zone. This is nothing more than Devil's Tower. It broke right here. Bang! And you have the wrinkle zone. Not too hard to understand when you stop to think and you look and you start to understand chemistry and biology and the ancient texts, and then you start to look around the world, what is around the world, and you see membranes like this, and you say, that's a human membrane. If I held that up, you could look through it just like a piece of glass almost. Almost nothing there. It's just microscopic to the extreme. Well, guess what? That is the membrane, and this also is the same membrane, only a little bigger. That's the bottom layer, that's the top layer, 6 feet thick or more. And this is the membrane with all these little fluty little edges, which originally at one time was coated with a mucosa, which is a wet, slimy surface, which only the things allowed in were allowed in through these ion channels, protein channels. You have to do a little work on this. You can't just walk up, I know everything about it. No, you have to do the work. You have to do the work. And I did. And I do understand everything about it. And these things were absolutely enormous. These little balls are the same as these balls here, and they go eroding out of this wall over the United Kingdom from skin, flesh, balls, mud. Mud is nothing more than eroded flesh. This is the same thing. These are Moki marbles on Utah, Arizona. Eroded flesh, all washed off and just left the balls. This is it. This is inside our bodies. We have the same balls all over us inside. And that's your flesh rolls around on that so you can move around. I've shown these things hundreds of times. Hundreds. More than hundreds. These are the same balls. Up in Alaska, they're starting to thaw out. They still have meat on them. And the moss is growing on that flesh. And there's just nothing but balls everywhere because the giant creatures were just staggeringly, unbelievably giant. And this here, I think this is Finnegle's Cave. This is more of these tendons. More tendons. And this right here is what's called, it's glue. It glues the tendon to muscle. Now the muscle, I believe, would have been up in that direction, and it's just completely eroded away. But that's how you have an abrupt transition, and then you have that gluey, and it is gnarly and tough, which glues, literally glues that block to the next, to the muscle. You see this? This is over Giant's Causeway. Same thing. It's just nothing more than giant creatures. It wasn't a causeway. It wasn't built for a road. This was the body of the creature, and they're just little tendons. Yeah. All right, I'm just going to probably leave it at this because this is getting very frustrating. I cannot get any response from any of the people making these claims using our money to indoctrinate our kids. And this is rock columns around the world only form in volcanic rock layers. That is not true. It's just not true. The kids should see this, and they have all kinds of teaching videos about teaching the kids about all kinds of things. Now, I don't know what else they got wrong, but as far as I can see, probably most of what they're teaching them, if it's got to do anything to do with history, geology, physics, even chemistry, all of that stuff, it's just not right. Dipole electron flood theory is what they should be teaching them, or at least looking at it, because this is the configuration of the atom. It's not one big ball of positive and a couple of little tiny negatives. It's equal numbers, well, sort of equal numbers of dipole electrons. This has to be discussed. It has to be discussed. I have the evidence, and it will not be allowed. Peer review has destroyed the intelligence of humanity. It has destroyed it. Didn't help it. Destroyed it.